Sir, with all due respect, this is absolutely ridiculous. Security Chief Raztool slammed his four-fingered hand onto my desk, his bioluminescent spots pulsing an angry red. Replacing our elite Chronaxian guards with humans. I, Prison Administrator Krell Vazar, leaned back in my gravity-adjusted chair and watched my security chief's antennae twitch in agitation. The complaint wasn't unexpected. It was the 7th one today. The previous 6 had come from various department heads, all expressing similar concerns about our facility's new staffing direction. Tell me, Raztool, I clicked my mandibles thoughtfully, how many escape attempts did we have last month? 17, sir, but... And how many the month before? 23, but that's not the point. These are humans we're talking about. They're barely Class 3 civilization. They still watch entertainment about throwing inflated animal skins at each other. I activated my holoscreen, displaying the imposing structure of Maximum Security Facility Zone X-993, better known throughout the galaxy as the Void. Our prison housed the most dangerous criminals from 37 different species across 12 star systems. The facility itself was a masterpiece of engineering, a massive complex carved into the core of a dead moon, protected by energy shields that could withstand a small supernova. Have you ever seen a human angry Raztool? I asked, my compound eyes reflecting the blue glow of the holoscreen. Well, no, but... I have. I switched the display to security footage from one of our rival facilities. Watch this. The video showed a human guard, a female if I remembered my xenobiology correctly, calmly walking into the middle of a prison riot. 6 drachnid inmates, each standing 3 meters tall with reinforced exoskeletons, surrounded her. What happened next made Raztool's spots turn pale yellow with shock. That's impossible, he whispered. How did she... Throw a drachnid twice her size, the same way she broke that other one's arm in 3 places while quoting something called WWE SmackDown. Humans are Deathworlders, Raztool. Their planet tried to kill them so many times they turned into something that scares even apex predators. But, sir, our current guards are predictable. The inmates study them, learn their patterns, exploit their weaknesses. But humans, I chuckled, a sound like pebbles in a waste processor. Humans are chaos incarnate. They're illogical, emotional, and absolutely terrifying when provoked. Perfect for our needs. Raztool's spots had shifted to a worried purple. The Central Prison Authority will never approve this. I reached into my desk drawer and pulled out a data chip. They already have. The first group of human guards arrives tomorrow. The Void is about to become even more interesting. As Raztool stumbled out of my office, I couldn't help but wonder if I'd made the right decision. But after watching that human guard suplex a drachnid while humming something called Eye of the Tiger, I had a feeling things were about to get very entertaining indeed. The first sign that something was wrong came during the 3rd shift rotation. I was reviewing security protocols when the alarm started blaring. Not the standard containment alerts. These were the high-pitched screams of multiple sector breaches. Sector 7, then 12, then 3. A pattern. Administrator Vazar! Lieutenant Pex burst into my office, his crystalline form vibrating with anxiety. It's Nexus. He's orchestrated a multi-sector riot. Nexus. The name sent shivers through my exoskeleton. The most notorious crime syndicate leader in 3 spiral arms, responsible for the collapse of entire governments. We'd caught him 6 cycles ago, but obviously, prison hadn't diminished his talent for causing chaos. I rushed to the control center, where wall-to-wall monitors showed the nightmare unfolding. In Sector 7, plasma fires raged while Vulcrin inmates melted through containment doors. Sector 12's gravity generators had been reversed, sending guards and furniture flying toward the ceiling. And in Sector 3, well, I tried not to look too closely at what the nightmare beetles were doing. "Where are the human guards?" I demanded, scanning the chaos for our newest staff members. "That's just it, sir." Pex's crystalline form refracted light nervously. "They're laughing." I focused on the monitor showing Corridor 9B. There stood Jake Morrison, one of our new human guards, casually leaning against a wall, while dozens of inmates rushed toward him. But instead of running or calling for backup, he was whistling. "What in the 7 moons is he doing?" Raztool screamed, his spots now strobing between panic white and rage red. The answer came through our comms in the form of music. Loud, pounding music that made my sensory organs vibrate uncomfortably. "What is that horrible noise?" Pex asked, several of his facets cracking from stress. "According to the Human Cultural Database," our AI chirped, "it's something called 'Another One Bites the Dust' by Queen." The human guards had hacked our speaker system. As the music blasted through the prison, they moved with an eerily coordinated precision that I'd never seen before. Morrison pushed off from the wall, grabbed something from his belt, and threw it toward the charging inmates. "Is that a ball?" Raztool squinted at the screen. It was, a simple rubber ball that bounced off the walls in an apparently random pattern. The inmates, their enhanced combat instincts kicking in, tracked it automatically, leaving them completely unprepared for Morrison's next move. He called it a clothesline later. I called it beautiful chaos. In other sectors, the humans employed equally bizarre tactics. Guard Rebecca Torres was using what she called dad jokes to psychologically torment a group of telepathic mindweavers. Why don't eggs tell jokes? Because they'd crack up. The mindweavers, unable to process the illogical humour, were curled into fetal positions, whimpering. In Sector 12, Guard Carlos Ramirez had somehow turned the gravity malfunction into what he called a space mosh pit, using the zero-G environment to launch himself between floating inmates like some kind of deadly pinball. But it was Guard Lisa Chen who truly demonstrated why humans were perfect for this job. She walked straight up to Nexus himself, a being capable of controlling minds through pheromone manipulation, and offered him a choice. "Option 1, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the security feeds. "You end this riot now. Option 2. She pulled out her phone and held it up. "I start playing Baby Shark on loop through the prison speakers. Your call." I had to check our xenobiology database to understand why several inmates immediately began screaming in surrender. Apparently, that particular sonic weapon had been banned in multiple star systems. The riot ended 17 minutes after it began. Our previous record for containing a Nexus-led uprising was 6 hours. "I don't understand," Raztool muttered as we watched the humans escort inmates back to their cells, still whistling that strange Queen song. "Their tactics make no sense. They ignored every standard protocol." "Exactly," I replied, mandibles clicking in satisfaction. "You can't prepare for what you can't predict. And humans? They're professionally unpredictable. But the ball trick? The jokes? The music?" "Psychological warfare," I explained. "Humans learned long ago that the mind is as vulnerable as the body, sometimes more so." As if to prove my point, Guard Torres walked past a cell block, casually asking, "What did the detention cell say to the prisoner? We need to celebrate your stay." The collective groan from the inmates was music to my ears. The day Marcus Rodriguez became head guard of the Void, he showed up to his shift wearing what he called Hawaiian Shirt Friday attire. The sight of our new security chief in a garment covered in small yellow fruits and something called flamingos sent our regulatory compliance officer into early molt. "But the uniform code clearly states," the officer began. "The code says guards must wear identification and protective gear," Rodriguez interrupted, adjusting his shield generator. "Nothing about tropical birds being against regulations." That was Rodriguez in a nutshell, finding the gaps in rules that no other species would even think to look for. During my mandatory weekly meetings with him, I never knew if I'd find him practicing martial arts with the maintenance droids, teaching Volcrin inmates how to play something called poker, or conducting guard training sessions using what he called Home Alone tactics. "Look," he told me one day while demonstrating how to weaponize cleaning supplies, "most species think prison security is about strength or technology. But humans, We grew up watching movies where the little guy wins using whatever's lying around. MacGyver, baby. I had to admit, his methods got results. Escape attempts dropped by 85%. Violent incidents decreased by 73%. And somehow inmate morale improved, even though they were now more securely contained than ever. It's because we treat them like people, Rodriguez explained, sharing his contraband coffee with me. The substance was technically classified as a psychoactive stimulant, but I'd developed a taste for it. Well, people who'd definitely murder us if given the chance, but still people. The other guards didn't understand it at first. The Chronaxians, with their rigid military hierarchy, were particularly offended by Rodriguez's leadership style. They filed formal complaints about his lack of decorum and inappropriate casualness with dangerous criminals. "You let the Nightmare Beetles form a book club," Security Chief Razatul had shouted during one particularly heated staff meeting. "Hey, they're really into Jane Austen," Rodriguez shrugged. "Turns out Pride and Prejudice really speaks to their hive mind mentality. Besides, have you seen how careful they are with the books? Those mandibles were made for shredding steel, but they turn pages like they're handling newborn larvae." The tension reached its peak when the Chronaxian guards demanded separate facilities, claiming they couldn't work alongside such unprofessional elements. Rodriguez's response was to organize an interspecies paintball tournament. "Nothing builds team spirit like shooting each other with washable projectiles," he grinned, handing out the markers. To everyone's surprise, it worked. The sight of dignified Chronaxian warriors diving behind cover to avoid neon-pink splatter shots, while human guards shouted quotes from action movies, somehow broke down barriers we'd thought unbreakable. "You see," Rodriguez told me later, covered in multiple colors of paint, "that's the real secret to why humans make great guards. We don't just think outside the box. We take the box, turn it into a fort, and use it to launch water balloons at serious situations until they stop being so serious." I watched him interchange between playing cards with genocidal warlords and subduing riot leaders with improvised weapons made from cafeteria trays. He knew every inmate's name, favorite food, and potential murder methods. He treated maximum security the same way he treated minimum, with a mix of respect, humor, and the constant underlying threat that he could and would body slam anyone who stepped out of line. "Sometimes I think you enjoy this job too much," I mentioned one day, after watching him teach a group of reformed assassins how to play charades. "Course I do," he laughed. "Where else can I suplex a drachnid before breakfast, play chess with a psychic squid at lunch, and end my day watching Nightmare Beetles debate romantic literature?" Looking at the chaos that had become our new normal, I realized something important. The humans hadn't just changed our security protocols. They'd changed how we saw security itself. The signs were there, but none of us advanced species noticed them. It took Rodriguez's morning coffee run to unravel what would have been the biggest prison break in galactic history. "The sugar packets are different," he announced, bursting into my office at 0600 hours, holding up what looked like identical sweetener containers. "What?" I asked, my compound eyes still adjusting to the day cycle. "The sugar packets, they switched brands, but we haven't changed suppliers in 2 years. He dumped several packets on my desk. "Also, the new night shift janitor whistles. Who whistles while cleaning maximum security cell blocks?" I started to explain about human paranoia, but Rodriguez was already moving on. "And the quantum mail scanner's been recalibrated 3 times this week. The maintenance logs say it's routine, but my gut says something's fishy." "Your digestive organs are suspicious of our mail system?" "Trust me on this, boss. Remember what happened last time I had a hunch?" I did. His funny feeling about the prison chaplain had revealed the religious leader was actually a shape-shifting assassin. The fact that Rodriguez identified them because they never blinked right still baffled our security experts. We pulled up the security feeds from the last month. Rodriguez, now joined by guards Chen and Torres, pointed out dozens of little things that apparently screamed danger to human instincts. The way certain guards changed their patrol routes by mere seconds, how the cafeteria started serving a different brand of protein slabs. Even the subtle changes in the ambient temperature of Sector 9. See how Officer Kex's mandibles twitch when he passes cell block D? Chen pointed. That's not his normal twitch pattern. You catalogue mandible movements? I asked. Don't you? Torres replied, completely serious. The humans insisted on bringing in guard Ramirez, who apparently had the best nose in the business. He spent an hour walking the corridors, occasionally stopping to sniff walls. Plasma residue, he declared. Someone's been cutting through small sections of the quantum-reinforced walls and patching them up. Real subtle job, too. Would have fooled the sensors. Further investigation revealed a conspiracy so vast it made my exoskeleton molt prematurely. 17 staff members, including 3 department heads, had been compromised. The sugar packets contained microscopic quantum drills. The janitor's whistling was a coded message system. The mail scanner recalibration was hiding unauthorized matter transmission. But the real shock came when we discovered who was behind it all. The librarian, Rodriguez announced, pointing to our head of educational programming. Been here 15 years. Perfect record. Runs all those rehabilitation programs. Also happens to have enough blackmail material on half the prison staff to make a mindweaver blush. The librarian, a seemingly harmless cerebral from the meditation nebula, had spent years building their network. They used their position to gather secrets, manipulate staff, and slowly orchestrate what would have been a simultaneous breakout from all major sectors. How could we miss this? Raztul's spots were practically strobing with distress. We ran quantum scans, psychic screenings, loyalty tests. Yeah, but did you ever notice they always use the same coffee mug? Rodriguez asked. 15 years, same mug. No one's that attached to a beverage container. The mug, it turned out, was a sophisticated quantum computer capable of hacking our security systems. The librarian had been planning this for over a decade, using their position to coordinate between crime syndicates, corrupt staff, and outside forces. Wait, I interrupted the briefing. You suspected them because they were too consistent with their drinking vessel. That and they alphabetized the prison library by color instead of author or title, Torres added. Major red flag right there. The evidence, when we finally gathered it all, was overwhelming. The librarian had created a master plan that would have freed over 3,000 of the galaxy's worst criminals. They had accounts of every guard's secrets, detailed structural weaknesses in the prison, and enough outside support to transport an army. Yeah. And you discovered all this because of sugar packets and a coffee mug? Pex asked, several of his crystal facets cracking in confusion. Humans call it a gut feeling, Rodriguez explained, sipping from his own garishly decorated mug. Sometimes things just feel wrong, you know? Like when you're watching a horror movie and you know the teenager shouldn't go into that dark basement. What's a horror movie? Someone asked. Oh man, movie night's going to be fun this week, Rodriguez grinned. But first, we need to deal with our bookworm friend. Anyone up for some good old-fashioned human-style psychological warfare? As I watched Rodriguez outline his plan, something involving the prison speaker system, every copy of War and Peace in the library, and what he called the most annoying song in human history, I realized why humans were so effective as guards. While the rest of us looked for logical patterns and quantifiable data, they operated on an entirely different level. Sometimes, Rodriguez told me later, the best security system is a species that spent its entire evolutionary history asking, what's that weird noise? And why does something smell funny? And then poking it with a stick to find out. The Day of Reckoning came during what humans call Taco Tuesday, apparently a sacred tradition Rodriguez had instituted in the prison cafeteria. The librarian made their move just as the kitchen started serving something called guacamole. Now that's just disrespectful, Rodriguez muttered, as the first explosions rocked the void. Nobody messes with Taco Tuesday. All across the prison, carefully planted devices activated simultaneously. Shield generators failed. Cell doors opened. The quantum containment fields flickered and died. And in the chaos, the librarian revealed their true form. Not a peaceful cerebral at all, but a quantum-shifted assassin wearing 15 years of carefully crafted disguise. But the humans were ready. They'd spent the last week preparing what Rodriguez called Home Alone, Space Prison Edition. "Remember," Rodriguez's voice crackled over the comm system. "Stick to the plan. Chen, you're Kevin McAllister in Sectors 1 through 4. Torres, you've got 5 through 8. Ramirez, unleash Operation Wet Bandits in the lower levels." I watched from the emergency command center as pure chaos erupted, but this time it was orchestrated chaos. Our kind of chaos. Chen had rigged the gravity plating in her sectors to activate in random patterns. Escaping prisoners found themselves suddenly weighing either nothing or 300 times their normal mass, usually face first into walls covered in what Torres called extra-strength silly string. The substance hardened on contact, leaving dozens of high-security inmates trapped like flies in particularly festive webbing. Ramirez had taken the Wet Bandits theme literally. He'd filled the lower-level drainage systems with a mixture of industrial lubricant and phosphorescent dye. Any escapee trying to use the maintenance tunnels emerged glowing in the dark and unable to maintain friction with any surface. The sight of notorious assassins sliding helplessly down corridors while leaving glowing trails behind them would have been funny if it wasn't so effective. But it was Rodriguez who truly demonstrated why humans are terrifying. He walked straight into the library where the fake librarian was coordinating the breakout, armed with nothing but a food tray and what he called his playlist of psychological warfare. "Baby Shark do," blasted through the speakers as he entered. "You think your primitive psychological tactics will work on me?" the librarian snarled, their forms shifting between different species rapidly. "I've spent 15 years studying every security protocol, every weakness, every—" "Never going to give you up," started playing next. What is this torture?" "Oh, we're just getting started," Rodriguez grinned, ducking under a quantum blast. "Wait till we hit Barney's I Love You song." The fight that followed defied several laws of physics and probably created a few new ones. The librarian was a masterful shapeshifter, changing forms to adapt to each attack. But Rodriguez moved with what he later called peak dad reflexes, using his lunch tray as both shield and weapon, while belting out lyrics to increasingly annoying songs. Then came the twist none of us saw coming. As Rodriguez cornered the librarian, a slow clap echoed through the library. From behind a quantum-locked bookshelf stepped Prison Inspector Nazatul, Raztul's identical twin. "Bravo, Mr. Rodriguez," Nazatul said, his spots glowing with smug satisfaction. "But did you really think a mere quantum-shifted assassin could orchestrate all this? The librarian was just another pawn. I've been planning this since before you humans even achieved spaceflight." Rodriguez just smiled. "Yeah, we knew that too." "Impossible, my cover was perfect." "Dude, you used the wrong hand to sign your inspection forms last week. Plus, the real Naztul is allergic to that fancy alien coffee you've been drinking in the break room." The look of shock on Nazatul's face was priceless. "You knew because of coffee and handwriting?" "Also," Chen's voice came from behind him, "you put your quantum pistol in your right holster. The real Naztul is left-handed." The ensuing takedown involved 3 bags of contraband glitter, don't ask where Torres got them, a masterfully wielded cafeteria tray, and the complete works of William Shakespeare used in ways the bard definitely never intended. "You know what your real mistake was?" Rodriguez asked, standing over the captured masterminds. "You thought being advanced meant being unpredictable. But humans, we grew up on a planet that tried to kill us every day in new and exciting ways. We had to become the unpredictable ones just to survive." As we led them away, I had to ask, "How long did you know about Nazatul?" "Since his first inspection," Rodriguez shrugged. "No one actually enjoys filling out regulatory compliance forms. That was our first clue. 3 days after what inmates now called the Great Taco Tuesday Throwdown, I found myself writing the most unusual report of my career to the Central Prison Authority. So, the Grand Inspector asked during our emergency review. You're telling me that human guards prevented the largest prison break in history using condiments, earth music, and office supplies. Don't forget the glitter, I added. Apparently we'll be finding that in the ventilation systems for the next decade. The aftermath of the incident brought fascinating changes to the Void. The Nightmare Beetles requested to join Rodriguez's weekly movie night, arguing that understanding human unpredictability was vital for their rehabilitation. They particularly enjoyed something called Ocean's 11. Even the Chronaxian guards, once so opposed to human methods, now attended Torres's improvised defense workshop. Last week's lesson on weaponizing cleaning supplies had a waiting list. You have to understand, I explained to the Grand Inspector, humans don't just think outside the box. They take the box, turn it into a fortress, fill it with traps from old movies, and then convince the inmates to voluntarily return to their cells because they're showing The Princess Bride in the common room. The statistics were undeniable. Escape attempts had dropped to near zero. Violent incidents were down 90%. And somehow, inmate satisfaction surveys showed improvement across all metrics. They rated Taco Tuesday as the highlight of their incarceration, I noted. Even while being arrested, Naztul asked if he could get the recipe for the guacamole. The Central Prison Authority, in an unprecedented display of common sense, not only approved our Human Guard program, but mandated it across all maximum security facilities. Though they did add one regulation, no glitter bombs without proper containment protocols. Rodriguez took it all in stride. The day after the review, he instituted what he called Casual Friday, which apparently meant everyone, including the inmates, wore those horrible fruit-covered shirts. You know what the best part is, he told me, watching a group of reformed pirates teach a mindweaver how to do something called the Macarena in the recreation yard. For once, bureaucracy got something right. They wanted the perfect prison guards, and they found us, a species so crazy that we make hardened criminals worry about our mental stability. As if to prove his point, Chen walked past, humming Baby Shark, while a group of inmates frantically covered their auditory organs and begged for mercy. Besides, Rodriguez added, sipping his coffee from a mug that now read, World's Best Prison Guard. Where else can you prevent a prison break with bad music and dad jokes, then celebrate with tacos? Looking at the organized chaos that the Void had become, I realized we'd discovered something important. Sometimes the best way to guard the galaxy's most dangerous criminals is to put them in the care of a species whose answer to every problem is, hold my coffee and watch this. At least we'd finally figured out why the humans always volunteered for prison guard duty. They weren't just good at it, they were having fun.